Hi, my name is Jill. This is Survival Road Rules, and today I want to just sort of extend a previous video I did when I talked about my perspective or point of view on romantic relationships and this RV life, because I've gotten some questions and some emails, and I wanted to just sort of give a little bit of more information on that since there seems to be some interest. And so with that, we're going to take a deep breath, in for 4, hold for 4, exhale, and see you on the other side. So secretly, I'm actually making this video for 2 reasons. One is I'm getting hammered by Google's analytics or AI, which I've learned way too much. They're demonetizing all my videos. This video on the romance thing was the only one that they haven't and that they seem to be promoting. And I spent way too much time this weekend really looking into what that means, but they like it when you piggyback videos, so we're piggybacking on the previous video. But also, this is something I think that people are responding to in terms of some of the feedback I've gotten. So I wanted to let you know this is not, the end-all be-all advice. There's just 3 things I wanted to bring up here, and it's mostly what I would say as a single solo woman to men when you're both in an RV situation or when just one person is, because it's a little bit different, at least from my perspective as being alone in the RV. It's a little bit different than when I lived in a house. So I'm just going to give you 3 things that have come up for me on the road, what I've experienced, and this is what I would say to those men, but it was awkward, so I wouldn't say that, but I'm going to say it to you here. So the first thing that I would really say is that this life requires, or it should require, women to be much more cautious. My experience was that I think my cautiousness was interpreted as rejection or defensiveness. And something I heard, which I've never actually seen, is that men make the decision in about 10 seconds whether they're interested in somebody. It takes women a couple minutes. I think it takes even longer, at least for me, to decide if it's somebody I'm interested in. But if men feel rejected in those first few seconds, like if you flinch or you hold back or you do something like that, then men interpret that as rejection. And you really shouldn't, because part of staying safe in this world is to be discerning, and part of being discerning is to not just throw it all out there. We used to do that more when we were younger, when we were stupid, and we all got into trouble for it. At this age, I don't know about you, but I am infinitely more cautious and not defensive, but standoffish until I know what the other person wants. Because do you want to come in and rob me? There's all kinds of things going on in the world. So I saw men over and over and over just give up and feel rejected and slighted just because either I was busy and I had to go do something and I didn't have time to talk or whatever. So that's the first thing I would say is just relax and be easy. Don't be so worried about what's actually happening. And just remember, if a woman's not being cautious and making things way too easy, 1, either she's probably crazy, or 2, well, she's not really there because she likes you. The second thing I would bring up is, I saw this repeatedly too, is that there's a difference between kindness and romantic interest. And I felt really bad, but I saw this over and over again, that there was a misinterpretation of being kind with romantic interest. And the way I would suggest that both men or women really handled that is that not to just blatantly ask somebody out in the first 10 seconds, because that goes back to the caution thing. But in the process of getting to kind of know somebody in general conversation, is you can ask, well, how do you handle relationships in this kind of lifestyle? Making it a question that they can answer. And if they're interested in you, they will direct the answer probably towards something. Yeah, well, it is something when I find the right person, right? Or no, as you've heard me say, it is off the table for me right now because it's just not realistic and it has nothing to do with the other person. So if you ask enough questions in which someone, man or woman, can come back with an answer, then that will give you a lot more information, and you'll be able to figure out, is this person just really nice and I want to be friends with them? Or is this person really interested in me? Or you can just ask directly. Somebody like me, you could just ask directly, but not everybody likes that. So indirect asking often works really good. How have you handled people being interested in you in this kind of lifestyle? Oh, and by the way, all you married guys, please, you know, that was the other big thing. There's a lot of guys working while they're camping out in various places. Don't be afraid to be direct and ask ladies. And the last thing, the third thing I want to bring up is just don't jump in. I couldn't believe the number of people that just immediately would offer for me to come out and park on their property. And I got really cautious. You know, I don't go on anybody's property where the man is 20 years younger or 20 years older if they're married, because the wife always gets an issue. I would never live on a single man's property because of, you know, the confusion around that. And same thing with traveling. You know, if you're traveling, be cautious of people who just want to jump right in. You know, from a psychology perspective, it takes about 6 months to a year before people just drop their guard and for you to see who they really are. You don't really know somebody until you've seen them in a crisis. You've seen how they treat their family, how they treat animals, how they handle stress. That is a huge one, how people handle stress. You know, how do you cope? And it takes time for those kinds of situations to come up to see what's really happening. But, you know, when I was backpacking, we hooked up all the time, but we could just, you know, go the other way. And it makes it easier in an RV if you both have your own RVs or your own traveler trailers or vans or whatever, makes it much easier to say, see you later, bye. Complicated, but easier. But the reality is it's also more difficult to get to know somebody if you're both traveling in your separate vehicles. So that, I would say, is a little bit difficult. I don't have a good answer for that because it really does take time getting to know somebody and seeing them in multiple situations. But over and over, you know, I just see people jump in because I think there's a bit of more of a panic as you get older in terms of trying to find somebody and wanting it to be true than taking the time to find out if it's a good fit. So that's just a little tiny bit. I am fascinated with what's happening on with this algorithm thing. I'm going to be making a video on that, but this was my experiment to see if I can tag onto the other video, because unfortunately what happens is if they demonetize you is they don't send you to your subscribers, they don't promote you, they don't put you on the suggested video lists, they bury you. And so people have to be highly motivated to come find you. And even though I appreciate everybody new, my subscriber list is really tiny compared to everybody else. So I'm just experimenting with this, but it is good advice in the sense that it is things that I've experienced. It's just my opinion. You can take it or leave it. But with that, we will say, I hope you have a really good day. And before we go, we take one more deep breath for the road as I hope you will rise with the sun in your eyes, love in your heart, feet firmly on the ground as together we walk on Survival Road, one day at a time. Live free, die wild, my friend, and we'll see you next time.